This is going to be a review of the Empire Ears Legend X. Before I get into the review, I'm going to do kind of a brief introduction. The thing that caught my eye about this set, this was sent to me perhaps because of Twister's recommendation, because it's got the ability to be quite powerful in the bass, but that's really just kind of an appetizer to the whole thing. This is an exploded view of the IEM, which is right here. It's actually quite small, considering all of the stuff that is packed into it. I'll give a closer look to that later. Get back to this. So this is an exploded view. Inside there is a crossover network system, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 custom balanced armatures that were, I guess, created by, or they were part of the creation of these balanced armature drivers. And also they have two 9mm basically subwoofers is what they're calling them. So these would be 9mm is pretty good size, and there's actually two of them, which is impressive because again that's actually quite a small shell. It's not big at all. I've seen some big ones. This is not big at all. The significance of this, and some of this is not going to be interesting to others, but bear with me because I'll go through this quickly. A typical dynamic driver is a single transducer. It's one driver, and when you EQ or you do anything to it, it relates to, and this is not a graph of the Legend X, thank God. This is a kind of fucked up frequency. I download this off the internet because it's got the frequencies clear to see down here. If it's a single dynamic driver, or it's a dynamic driver and a balanced armature, but the balanced armatures are not crossed over, they're just kind of passively crossed over, which means that these would be in the chamber, they would be covering a certain frequency, but using the length of the tube, the size of the bore, they would get the sound that they want. But there would be an overlap going on, and you could kind of hear it, and that would create a loss of micro details, and that's why hybrids are not often considered to be really top of the line for a number of years. I did a video about that before, but they've reached a point now where that's becoming not the case, and the way that Empire Ears did this in particular, this is not me kissing ass. I just did a couple of really ranting videos. I'm from car audio and also home audio before I ever got into headgear. Your speaker system in your stand-up floor speakers, the speaker systems in your car are crossed over. They are tasked with taking a certain frequency range. So what you couldn't do with a single dynamic or passively crossed over hybrid, you could do with something like this because it's got a crossover network. So, for example, and this is just guessing and spitballing, these subwoofers right here are probably most likely taking care of the audible, which would start around 20, and the bass frequency goes, the fundamental, to about 330. That would probably be the range that these drivers are taking care of. The elevation or adjustment of them should really mostly affect this area and shouldn't affect the mids, because there are drivers 1 to 2 that are dedicated to this. So whatever you do here, it's going to be counteracted by the fact that there are dedicated drivers in this range. If you had a dynamic driver, you couldn't do that, and if you had passively crossed over BAs with a dynamic, you would come into veiling when you elevated this, because you wouldn't have a way to really compensate this, because you'd be fighting drivers against drivers. If you've got your bass, the fundamental frequency limit is approximately 300. The harmonic extension goes out to 1 and about 2.5K. So the bass guitar actually would go out about this far. Vocals, human of course, male and female vocals. Male vocals go down into the bass. Women vocals are right very close to it, and the older women get, the lower their voice can get. And both of them extend all the way up to around 4 or 5K, generally speaking. So planar IEMs have difficulties because around 1 to 4 there's usually an issue. There's an abnormal pre-harmonic bump, or there's a spike. And the Audis and other planar IEMs usually are dealing with issues in this range. So that would be a weak point to those. You wouldn't have that with this because, again, there's likely to be 1 to 2 of these drivers that is totally focused on the vocals, because vocals are everything. If you've got recessed vocals, which some IEMs that are quite expensive shockingly do have, I wouldn't be interested in them at all. And then you've got slightly forward, which I would say that these probably are basically tuned. I've never EQ'd these, so I haven't put this into effect. This is what they say they're doing. The stock tuning of the IEM is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely to my taste. I love it, and I don't even want to get into the rabbit hole that is EQing. But if I were to do that, I have drivers that should be dedicated. Obviously, the subwoofer is going to be taking care of the bass. It should not go past about the fundamental range, around 300 hertz. Anything beyond that would cause a problem. If it were to cause any problem, there are drivers dedicated, crossed over, and specifically taking care of what I imagine would be the meat of the vocal range, the fundamental vocal range. The harmonic extension would be up here, which is likely being taken care of by probably the last 2 drivers. One of these is probably similar to a super tweeter, which would be way up here. I don't know where they would begin the super tweeter, maybe 7K, and then off and going. And if you had a spike at 8, you could maybe adjust that if you thought that it was a little too peaky, and it would only be dealing with this. These would be left alone, and the only part of the spectrum that you are dealing with would be just the one that you're adjusting. So if you guys are following me, this might sound like really 101 stuff to you, but just for other people that are thinking, that's very expensive, why am I paying for this? You're paying for this because you're basically getting a home audio system in your ear. And if you find that you think that the vocals are slightly forward, you would be able to, via EQ, to pull down the frequency where that is, and you would be dealing only with the driver, or drivers, perhaps 2, that are dealing with the vocal range and nothing else. If you thought the treble was nice and sparkly, it should stay exactly as so. If you think the bass is impactful and you like it, it should stay exactly as so. Decreasing the bass, if you would think it's too high, would only relate to the bass and would have no effect on the mids and everything else, and that's not the case with a single dynamic driver. I have my Sony EX1000s right here. I've been using these for years. I don't switch from my favorite IEM to favorite IEM like I did with girls when I was cruising the beaches of Hawaii. I don't flip around that fast. I like what I like, and I tend to stick to it, and then I customize it. I get a custom kit. I get mini XLR on it. Then I tell the guy, you know what, I want a cable so that I can go 4.4 with my Sony. I want a cable that I can do regular 3.5. I want a cable that I can do with a PHA-3. I want a cable that I can do 2.5 balanced. I want a cable that I can do the new S-Balance thing with i-Fi. I want a cable that, this is another 3.5. I can basically do whatever DAP I want right now with this set because I love it that much, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It is, however, a single dynamic driver, and increasing the bass on it just a little too much will cause issues with the mid frequency. Let me get this mess out of the way. This is essential to me, to be honest with you. Mini XLR system. Fucking love it. So you've got multiple drivers, proprietary so far as I can tell, and you've also got crossed over at all the points, which means that your level of control across the audible frequency band, particularly the bass, is separate and controlled. My opinion is that the fundamental and probably into the harmonic vocal range is probably tasked with 1 to 2 drivers, perhaps 3. And then you've got 2 drivers or 3 that are taking care of the upper range. As they have it tuned, I get sparkle, I get detail, I have mids that are a tad forward, but I want that because I want to hear the vocals And if I wanted to pull them back a little, which I would never do, I would be able to do that. And I don't need to figure out which driver is taking care of what, because I would never know what that is. I would just play with the EQ and pull it down a little, knowing in my mind that the other drivers that are not in the assignment range are not going to be changed at all. So in design, it's fantastic. It is my car audio system in a little shell in design. Now let's get into theory. I'll go ahead and stop this. Let's get a close-up look at this. I've gotten a few sets of IEMs before that are over the $1,000 range and higher than that. And when I do my little check right here for reflections, every single time I've done this, there's been just a number of micro scratches all along it. And this is as soon as I took it out of the box. And this has I guess a harder enamel coating on the outside, because I've actually been using these and handling these, and there's going to be little micro scratches that happen. You can't avoid that, but because I have OCD, I can't stand that. And these actually look quite nice. There was absolutely nothing on them when I first got them out, so the initial presentation and the quality was absolutely outstanding. I sit here and just do this and look at it, and if you pay over $1,000 for an item and it comes with little teeny scratches or somebody's fingerprint on it, it's just not a good first look. This one actually, both of them on both sides, looks really, really nice. So I had to say that because that's important to me. And again, the size is really not that bad. It's not bad. It's not an issue at all, as a matter of fact, considering that there are two 9mm subwoofer drivers in addition to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 balanced armatures. It's a very impressive feat that they got that in here, and this fits in my ear very nice. So it's not big and bulky in any way, and it's also well made, and it's got no little micro scratches on it. And I see that regularly with other stuff that's been sent and brand new, opened out of the box. And this doesn't have that. This is really, really quite beautiful. Very, very, very nice. I'll get out of here. Okay, let's start with bass. It's got two 9mm. You would expect that to be quite prominent. However, that would not be something that I would be wanting to pay a whole lot of money for. So that's a good market thing. That's a good design. But if this was a very bass heavy, it would not be multi-genre able. So I wouldn't even really be doing this video right now, to be honest with you. So this would be bass tracks that I would use. It says bass is the name. Ambitions is a rider. This is a DSD, Tupac DSD. It's the quality is very good. You people can argue about DSD. I don't want to talk about it. It's a good quality. If it's got issues, it might be up in the treble with volume, but it's in the bass. It's fantastic. It's very clear. The Legend X excels with bass. It's got two bass drivers. However, that doesn't seem to create any issues when it starts to go into other frequencies. This is taking it to the streets by Doobie Brothers. This is a typical 70s rock bass guitar. It actually opens with a bass guitar. Dun 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 dun. He's pulling all four strings, and there's decay, and you can hear it clearly. And there's also male vocals inside, and it goes into other stuff. But the bass line, when it crosses into vocals, there is no issue. There's nothing like a slow or inferior dynamic driver might have. This is doing well. The drivers now that are in here taking care of this are these two drivers, and they are doing their job, and the mid drivers are not being overwhelmed by these guys doing their job. Get another bass one. Dear Prudence, this is something that you guys should find interesting. When you get into a device and you're, let me see if I can get out of here, go into digital filters. People talk about digital filters and how can I you know, how can you hear the difference between them, which one is doing what? You need a single note, and it needs to be strong and clear and have time and space between the next note. Dear Prudence by the Beatles, if you go listen to it, starts with a weird sound, and then it goes into a dun, a single bass string pull. And if you play with filters and you listen to just the beginning of this song, you can start to hear the sonic differences between the filter settings. You really can't listen to a song and get the filter settings. You need to hear a note and the way it decays, the way it sharply falls off, the way it continues on. There is a way to judge filters, and I would recommend that you guys use Beatles' Dear Prudence if you can get your hands on it. I've got the whole Eagles discography on my player. So for bass, this is a great judgment. It sounds fantastic on this set. For digital filters, if you're ever wondering, this would be something that I would recommend for you guys. Tupac, holler if you hear me. Is this a DSD? No, this is a FLAC. This is very heavy. It was well mixed. There's a lot of sirens, and this is like a guy getting arrested, and it's a police thing. It's like an anti-police song. This is kind of like something that would have come out last summer when there was all this stuff about the police and abuse of power, and this was done 20 years ago by Tupac, and it speaks exactly to that. It's a very well mixed track. It's got very good bass. It sounds very good on this set. Everything that is in the middle and in the treble also sounds very good as well. See if I can move out. Salt and pepper. Please do not go. Let's do some Steely Dan. Hey 19. This is Donald Fagen. Hey 19. Dun, 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 dun. It's got a very, very, very clean bass line. And of course there's a lot more going on. Steely Dan is not a bassy group whatsoever, but there is a prominent bass line in this track, and it sounds very, very good. So the Legend X is doing very good with the bass, and it's not interrupting anything else, as you would expect a set designed like this to do. And it, in fact, does it. Love this song. Love it, love it, love it. Hey 19. Good, good stuff. See if we can move back over. Exodus. Nothing but a G thing. Chucky. Billie Jean. Want to be starting something. Billie Jean. I'll do one more for the bass. Billie Jean. Dun, 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 dun. This track actually opens with a bass line. I like tracks that start with bass lines because I can hear them at clearest at that point. Nothing else has come into my brain yet. Nothing else has come into the song, like Taking It to the Streets by the Doobie Brothers. This is kind of like that. The Michael Jackson opening up with the bass line and then getting into the synthesizers and the in the background, and just lots of super detail in this. This is a DSD as well. Lots of super detail in here. Opens with a bass line. I get to put my brain on the bass really quick before the other instruments come in. Sounds very, very good on this set. It sounds exceptional, actually, but I don't want to be... I was just talking about hype and other stuff, so I'll try to stay away from that. And that would be the bass. I'm going to go ahead and stop this right here. Okay, let's go into the mids now. Let's do the mids because I consider it the hardest for anything to do. It's so hard. You're looking at the tracks that I used to judge mids. You might agree with them or not agree with them. Let's start with the Norwegian Wood by the Beatles. I once had a girl, then again she once had me, or whatever that is. This is male vocals. A lot of this song exists in the mid-frequency range. It's very, very good to evaluate the mids on a set. If these guys sound just a step back, then you know that the mids are a step back, because this is mixed very, very well. And the mids should be correct. If they're back, it's not the mixing's fault, it's the fault of the driver. If they're forward, it's not the mixing fault. Abbey Road Studio, they were cutting edge at the time. This would be your driver's issue. These sound a tad forward. That's making me think that these are a tad forward. By happenstance, I don't even know what the fuck that means. by chance, that's actually my taste. I like the mids to be just a pinch forward. You can't have perfect. I'd like to have it like that. Melissa, Allman Brothers Band. This is a slow. Eat a peach. Again, a lot of the more important, a good part of the guitar, but when we're talking mids, I think vocals is the best way to judge the mid frequencies. Because the fundamental of male and female is going to exist in the mid frequencies, because that's science, that's acoustic science. And if they are back or they're forward, you're going to hear them. So having something that is vocal centric is probably ideal when evaluating the mid frequencies. Raptor, Still Loving You. This is a classic by the Scorpions. God, what was that guy's name? He's a German, I think. I think this is a German band. In fact, this is like a love ballad. This was done in, I think, in the late 70s or in the mid 80s. I think this is the Love at First Sting. It is, and it's also on like their ballads album. Again, a vocal centric song that's very paced. It's very quiet. It's in between the vocals. It builds up to a crescendo. The mids sound very, very good on this set. Sneaking Sally Through the Alley. You guys might not know about this. This is Robert Palmer. This is a classic right here. Robert Palmer is the blackest white guy that ever sang music. There's a couple black singers that said the same thing about him. And if you didn't know that Robert Palmer was white when this came out, you would assume that he was a black singer. He's absolutely groovy, bluesy. He's got a great voice. This sounds great. And this has got some treble work in it too, but this is really a good mid evaluator. And he sounds fantastic on the Legend X. Horse with No Name, Smoking, Helpless. Let me go to this one. This is Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. This is from the Deja Vu LP, Helpless. This is 2, 3, 4 men singing with acoustic guitars. It's, again, very paced. It's very vocal-centric, and the mids sound absolutely fantastic on this. Again, a tad forward, but that is my personal preference, so this sounds great. All of the things that I've showed you, I've not heard sound as good as they sound on this set. But I'm trying to not get too hyped out. So it's going to come out, though. I can't stop it. I love this music, and I love hearing it in such a fantastic way. A Horse with No Name, I've gone over that one before. Peaches and Diesel, Eric Clapton. Changes, Black Sabbath. Yeah, I'm telling you, Fool in the Rain, Led Zeppelin. Needle and the Damage Done. You're My Best Friend, Queen. You're in Love, Rat. Yeah, mids, man. There's a lot of mids in that track right there. So these are the tracks that I use to evaluate the mid frequency. So I'll go ahead and stop there because that's the mids. Okay, now let's go into the treble. Black Water by the Doobie Brothers. This starts out with basically what is wind chimes. If you know what wind chimes are, they're like those. There's lots of different kinds, but these sound like the ones that are like steel tubes, and then if the wind blows, it hits. It's very, very, very sparkly. Time by Pink Floyd is very, very shocking and peaky because it's alarms, basically. This is a more relaxing, sparkly treble intro. And again, because it's at the beginning of the song, it's before your brain starts to get confused by multiple things going on, including so as I'm doing this video, I'm starting to realize that a lot of the evaluation tracks I use highlight what I'm looking for at the beginning of the track before I start getting overtaken by everything else. This would be a good example of that. Black Water, Doobie Brothers, the chimes at the beginning, how crystal clear and sparkly they sound is a good indicator to the quality of the treble on whatever you're listening to. Let me try this one. Telephone Line. This is by ELO. This is filled with treble. This is one of the better tracks that you could listen to evaluate treble, in my opinion. It's mastered very, very well. It's lots of high frequency stuff, but it's done very, very well. It's not It's not rough, it's not biting, it's not sharp, it doesn't matter the gear you listen to, it's done in the right way. This copy that I have right here is a Japanese vinyl rip, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. I have the provenance of how this was created, this FLAC, and they did it really well with really high-end gear. Sounds great. It's a great way to evaluate your treble. Let's switch off to something, the Fix. This was from the Reach the Beach LP. One thing leads to another. A lot of the 80s techno, keyboard, just a lot of stuff going on up in the treble. Sounds really, really good. The bass, the mids, the treble, everything's coming in a really, really good way. Nothing seems to be getting over on something else. This would be Wings. This would be Paul McCartney after he left the Beatles. This is a song that sounds like two different songs that are kind of together. It starts out really, really slow and then starts to literally build a dun 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 dun, goes into acoustic guitar. Lot of upper frequency stuff going on in this track. It moves around from everything is in here. You've got your bass, kind of. You got your lower frequencies. You've got a lot of mid stuff, and you've also got a lot of treble stuff going on. I think it's a great evaluator for treble. Fly Like an Eagle, that's another one that's got a lot of like a wind panning. Something similar to Welcome to the Machine by Pink Floyd is going on in that. Photograph, Hotel California. I believe this is DSD as well. It is. I got a lot of DSDs. This sounds really good, and there's actually a lot of stuff going on up in the treble. The guitar, of course, the guitar covers a great part of the audible frequency range, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the treble here. This might be good for mids actually more, but Human Nature. This has got maybe the most info up in the treble of all the tracks that I've maybe ever heard. That's just genuinely a pop track meant for playing over like whatever kind of gear kids got. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the treble and the bass and the mids, and none of it seems to be getting in its way with the Legend X. This is all about the Legend X. I'm showing you guys how I'm coming to the conclusion that I'm coming to. Home Sweet Home, Motley Crue. There's another flashback. A lot of treble stuff going on in this. It comes through loud and clear. The benefits of a crossed over system is plain to see in this track as well. Definitely Photograph Light Band on the roll. One thing leads to another. Blackwater. I've actually got other. Let me go ahead and stop. That's treble. Okay, we got one more, and that would be Stage. Let me go ahead and get this focused again. Stage. Only got 4 in here. 4 Play Long Time by Boston. This is God, this is a classic. This, if you've got a home system or if you've got headphones that have good like spatial cues, like something like a Chesky, and you've listened to how your speakers can actually put stuff what sounds like it's on the really back of the driver, and it's amazing what they can do with audio. It's called psychoacoustics. This really sounds like you're at an outside venue, and they got speakers way far away from you, and you can hear them, panning around you like going to a live Floyd show. It's very impressive. The staging of the Legend X is actually quite good. Welcome to the Machine. This was something that I did before in a video, and this has got just... Pink Floyd is really good at manipulating your brain because they were studio junkies. They were not stoners like a lot of people think they were. They dabbled maybe a little bit in it, but not really. A lot of stoners loved Pink Floyd, but they themselves were really gear geeks, and they used everything they could find. Stuff that had been used once in a track 20 years previous, they brought in and they used with stuff like the Dark Side of the Moon album, and some of it on here too. The spatial cues are are all there. All the stuff that I expect to be there, far on the left, far on the right, sounding like it's disappearing behind my head, it's actually on here. On the run should be on here. It is. Okay, there it is. This is the ultimate panning because there sounds like there's ships that are coming around you. Left, right, from the left to the right, coming from the left and the right at the same time and passing each other, what seems to be directly behind your head. All of this stuff is conveyed by the Legend X exceptionally well. So that would be the stage, that would be the bass, the treble, and the mids, and those are the tracks that I use to come to my conclusions. Okay, so wrapping it up. This is an expensive set of IMs, and you've got an option to make. You can continue to buy and try, which is something that it's the hobby. People like that. I can get it. There are other people that are genuinely trying to get the best that they can get, and that's the only goal that they've got. They don't like buying things, selling them at a loss, and moving along. I'm actually that type of a person. As I showed you before with the EX1000s and all of the custom cables that I've got done with it, I was happy with what I had, and then I just invested time and money into maximizing that so much as I could. I didn't want to keep flipping into other stuff. I listened to other gear. I wasn't convinced it was better. Listening to the music that I showed you on my player, because everything, this is all about the music and enjoying the music. I don't think that there is a set on the market currently that is on the level of this item. I've heard 3 of the newer top of the lines, and I don't consider them to be on the level of this set right here. I got these in my possession by luck, a recommendation by Twister, which I'm appreciative of. I think it was related to the fact that I have the ear of people that like, let me twist that a little bit, bass. When in fact that these are actually exceptional because of the way it's designed with the crossover, because their drivers dedicated to certain portions of the frequency. These are absolutely exceptional in any genre, beyond anything that I've heard before. I got lucky to be in this position, and now that I'm here, I want to keep these. So I've got to go about the process of trying to do that. How that takes place is a process that I'm not familiar with, because this company, I'm not familiar with them, and I'm not really close with them. This was really just a lot of lucky stuff and some trust in me. If you've seen the recent 2 videos, you got to think, what a wild card. Why did they ever trust you? No shit. So I give them credit on that, because there's a lot of companies that I've reached out to that are in this realm that would never take a chance with me. Because if it wasn't any good, let me give you an example. I take this out, I plug it into the DX150, and when I try to pull it out, it starts turning this. So this thing costs this much, but it's got a little issue with the cable. When they sent it to me, they had the left and right wrong. I posted a picture, and then someone comes in and says, you got your picture back, you plugged your things in wrong. And I thought, no I didn't, because they came out the boxes. They sent an apology mail and said sorry about that. But unscrewable thing that it unscrews easily, that's not that big a deal. And then this was left right, this was backwards. That's the only critical thing that I can put out there, honestly. There are no sonic compromises. You're not going to have to suffer in the mids. You're not going to have to, there's not slightly hot treble. There's not overwhelming bass. The bass is there when it's supposed to be. It's not there when it's not supposed to be. It's absolutely the finest IEMs that I've ever heard. I want to move on from my EX1000s and all the time and money that I've invested in them, and then go into this. I want to get a new cable. I want to get these. I want to secure these. I'll pay money, big money for them. And then I want to get a new cable, because I like this, but I want to get something that's just uber ultimate, because I want to put lots of love and time into these. If you are considering whether or not you should get into this price range, I would advise caution, because there's a lot of stuff in this price range that absolutely brings up the diminishing returns commentary. I don't think that this is quite that. I think that if you were to buy these, you would be maybe and get out of the hobby. And remember, a lot of people come in and then where are they? Well, they got what they wanted and they left. If you're somebody that's hard to please and you like a bass because you think it's part of everything from orchestral symphonic music to whatever you listen to, but you like mids and you like them nice and clear, and you like treble that's not sharp and spiky, but you want it to be there, and you like a little bit of sparkle because it's it's appealing. You want all those things. This has that, and it's done with a very, very, very clever design. It was done with thought, and they executed it to perfection. Every sonic cue on every song that I use to critically evaluate, I have never actually had all of them be available to me with a single set. I've had some that did, others, some and others that didn't do it. And I thought that you know, and then finally a set comes along and I can hear all of those things. And it sounds fantastic and lively, and I thought everything I listen to compared to this is going to be compared to this as the EX1000s were. It's an exceptional set. I recommend it highly, and I think it's an end game level thing where if you were to buy this, I might not see you again on my channel, because why would you keep looking? If you're into the hobby, then this might be something you would get into, and in a year to 2 years you might move on to something that maybe this company offers later on. But this would be something that would play your music at a level you've probably not heard it. I've not heard it. I live in Japan. I hear lots of stuff. I've not heard it as good as this. Keep that in mind for a second. There's people that do reviews and they have access to what is sent to them or what their shop gets. I live in Japan and can walk into a shop, try whatever I want, and I have the character to not hesitate to unplug things and plug it into my source and my music. I've not heard something that sounds as good as this ever since I've been in this hobby. It is the top of the line. It's the real deal. I got to say thank you to Empire Ears. I got to say thank you to Twister for connecting me without realizing that not only was I going to like it, I actually fell in love with it, and I rec it highly. You'll see this a lot in future videos because I'm not sending it back to them. I'm going to buy it or whatever. I'm not letting these go. Fuck that. Money's coming out of my pocket or something because I'm keeping these. So you'll see these again in the future. When I make comparisons, it will be to this. I'll still probably compare the EX for nostalgia purposes, but these are the kings so far as I'm concerned. This is a long video. I'm sorry that it took this long, but the music's got to be in there. And I want you guys to always be familiar with what I'm listening to music-wise. What is the source that I'm using to evaluate. I didn't use multiple sources because I'm not testing the apps. I'm listening to this. The DX1000 is nice. It's good enough to pull out all the detail. Matter of fact, it's the best combo that I've got. It's better than the WM1A and the EX1000s in 4.4. This is better than that. And this is with the stock cable. I don't believe cables make that much of an improvement, but it's a psychological thing. So if I were to get some dope kick-ass cable and put it with this, I'm sure that my brain would feel like it was just that 1% better. And I got what I want. So give me the 1%. I'll spend money on that 1% thing that would be the cable. And then maybe another case. And then maybe change the plates and get customs because I want to keep going because this is what I want. The crossover network, the whole fucking thing. I want to keep it. I like it a lot. It's absolutely dope. That is my review for the Empire Ears Legend X. I think they're the finest IEMs on the market. I don't think you'll be hearing from me in quite a while as it relates to what's the best IEM out there. If you want to hear how something else compares, I can say that, but this is the best. These are absolutely dope. They're beautiful. There's no micro scratches. In every level, these things have hit the mark. Absolutely fantastic. If you spend this kind of money, I've seen other things because I've had them in my possession, stuff that is, $1,000, $1,600, $1,800, and there's always something. Always something. A little too smooth, lacking a little detail, always something. And it blew my mind, and I thought, this is the way it goes, and this is the diminishing returns law coming into effect. And this is the first set that I've ever come across that I didn't feel like anything was compromised at all. Not a thing. That's the end of my ramble. I recommend these highly. Empire Ears Legend X. Best IMs on the market right now. If you're into car audio, if you're into home audio, if you're into, you understand the crossover system, how it works, how it benefits overall audio, they fucking nailed it right here, man. They did it. That is a beautiful, exploded view picture, and it shows what this thing does, and it does a lot more than anything else that I've heard. It is the real deal. And I'm out of here. Way too long. It's good stuff, so it gets the long stuff. And that's it.